All right, we are recording. So I am here with Chris Johnson at Cerus Fitness. Thank you for coming to talk about your events. First things first, you mentioned you're not having a specific OCR race this year. You have in the past and you plan to in the future. Since you're not having one of those, please feel free to plug some of your other events coming up because I know you have a lot.
Sure. Yeah, I think our next event coming up, we have one this weekend, which is a bike race, but the next one that people could sign up for is a Deka Mile in August.
Nice.
We also will have a Deka Strong in October. So we're excited to have partnered with Spartan on those events. And we have a row marathon later this year as well. So fun endurance events before we kick off our season next year.
Have you hosted a row marathon before?
Yeah, this will be our third, and it sells out almost instantly every year. It's crazy.
Just out of curiosity, off the top of your head, do you happen to know what the fastest time you've seen so far is?
Yeah, it was the average pace was 1:43 per 500. It was
Really?
yeah, it was my team actually, but I think it was in the low twos for
That's awesome.
time.
That's cool. How many people rotate through it?
4. So
Okay. That's
people
so
get
great.
serious. You got somebody like on either end of the rower, like helping get them in and out of the straps, past the handle, and pretty aggressive row splits. But we also have teams who like basically dress up and are feeding each other donuts and are just out there having a good time. So we're about the community feel.
Nice.
So.
Cool. All right. So first things first, your obstacle course races, how many of those have you hosted in the past? And you've done them in stadiums. Have you done them outside of stadiums also?
Yeah. So Cerus is now 7 years old. And we started by doing 2 obstacle course races a year. One was a 5K, another one was a ruck event, or at least it's initially a ruck. We were like the first ruck OCR.
Yeah.
5K and 5 miles were the 2 distances. The ruck was the 5 miles. And we layered on the OCR race in the stadium a few years later. But we've hosted, I want to say, 13, 14 OCRs. We have pretty large scale, like 20 plus obstacles, the large scaffolding structures. One of our obstacles was voted top 10 in the United States. It's called Apollyon. You can see videos of it. It's a pretty big, intimidating beast. But yeah, we have a lot of fun. Yeah, check it out. It's a lot of fun, and it's taken a lot of bands.
Okay, so good thing you mentioned that. So you do bands for competitive waves?
In our OCRs for competitive waves, we do bands and their OCR World Champ qualifiers. So we work with them, and we work with Spartan. It's essentially one company now.
Yeah.
But yes, so we do mandatory obstacle completion in those. And our stadium races, we do not. We do a penalty because we're more focused on getting people through time-based.
Okay, and the bands, is it you start with the band, and if you don't complete it, the band is taken? Because I've heard different ways people do bands recently.
Yes, it is. And we used to do the fancy bands, and they're rubber. So we may have caught a few people putting those in their pocket and then taking it back out. Yeah. So now we actually do like the permanent one that has to be cut off. And then if you come across the finish line, we give you the fancy one at the finish line.
I honestly, it never crossed my mind that people would do that. But I mean, it's not surprising. People are very innovative.
I view it as a game of us versus competitors. They invent new ways to do it, and so we invent better ways to counteract that.
It's how it goes sometimes.
Yeah.
For better or worse, but hey. Okay, cool. That's a good way to do it. So you mentioned in the past you've had 20 some obstacles. You mentioned one signature one. What other types of obstacles do you typically have?
So we typically have a Tarzan. And we have a low rig that is in various forms in every race called Tamarind Tangle. It's about 3.5, 4 feet off the ground. It's almost like low monkey bars, but you have to be hanging beneath the bars, and then it transfers over to basically so if you're going bar, 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 it transfers over to a horizontal bar. and it actually takes a lot of bands itself. We also do like really big digs. We roll the excavators out, flood pits, and then we do 6-foot high wall with 6-foot deep water before it. We really go all out with when we do our builds. We go all out.
Are there grips on the wall?
No, this is this is dirt walls.
Oh, okay.
Essentially. But no, we have your standard walls. We have horizontal traverses, monkey bars, grip rigs with various like cannonball grips and stuff like that. And then we have another signature one called Kraken, which is a bunch of vertical boards with bungees, basically. And so you have to be able to get your feet really high, and the bungees really pull you back. It's about 30 feet long. Kraken is. Apollyon's massive. It's 45 feet long, and it's 8 lanes. It's a monster. It takes a day to build with a 6-person crew just by itself. So
awesome.
Yeah, we like to go big with our obstacles.
Nice. I definitely am checking out Apollyon after this. That sounds awesome. Okay. And then, so we already mentioned the competitive wave. Obviously, you have open waves as well. Do you do age group? And have you ever had any kids races or anything like that?
Yep, we've done kids and age group, both. So.
And are there awards for age group?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Typically awards with medals. It switches every year. What the awards are and what the medals look like. We do new designs every year.
Okay. And you just fed into the next one. So medals, everyone gets a medal at the end, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
T-shirts also?
We don't do T-shirts.
Okay.
We don't like doing the cheap T-shirts, but we do partial medals as well as full medals because we have a series of races, so they can piece them together as well as the individual medal. So a lot of medals.
Okay. And then finish line, I've noticed, sadly, in the last few years, I guess since the pandemic, really, finish line refreshments, we'll call them, have just died at races. Like the last Spartan I did, they had water and bananas, and that was it. There was like no Fit Aid's thing of the past, body armor, none of that. And I know some other races recently have, in like obstacle course racing and hybrid, have lost their drink sponsors and things like that. So what type of refreshments do you have at the finish line?
So we're lucky in that we are on a long-term deal with Gatorade, Muscle Milk, Celsius. We give out one of those to every competitor, as well as water. I think it's Dasani, and also Gatorade water, which is their new water. So we're on a long-term deal with them, and we have a ton of drinks at every event.
Nice. So. Oh, sold. I'm sold.
It's
like
no
it's just funny.
race.
If you've been in racing for a while and you've like had the good finish lines with the good refreshments, it's just a sad little disappointment when you see water and banana at a big race that you paid a lot of money for. So
yeah, right. Yeah, cool. Congratulations, you get a banana.
Yep. Yeah. Good luck now. Okay. Another thing that's changed at a lot of races in the past, or recent past, photographs. Have them at the race, and then do you charge for them, or do you give them free to the racers?
They're free to racers. So our big thing is we have no additional fees. There's no insurance fee. There's no parking fee. There's no photo fee. It's just one price. And so, yes, we typically have 3 different locations where a racer is guaranteed to get a picture, and they are free to download with no watermark at the end of the event.
It's awesome. I never thought I would care very much about it, and honestly, I mean, at this point, I have hundreds of photos from races, so I don't care anymore. But once I saw that I would have to pay for them, and it's like $30 or $40 at a few different companies, I was just like, well, there goes all the photos. I'm not getting any more.
Yeah, I get it.
And I know, cool. If not, whatever.
I understand small OCR and needing to do that. Because it's such a tough business to make money in. honestly, our races, we go so large with it. They're incredibly hard to make money on. Thankfully, we've got a full business built around. We have a fitness facility and we do quite a bit of training and stuff in addition to OCR. But yeah, it's a tough business. And so I get it, but it also sucks when you're like, I already paid a bunch of money and you want me to pay more for something I feel like you should just give me, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So,
I know why they charge for them, but yeah, it's sad as the racer when you have to
yeah, totally.
You mentioned a common theme I'm finding with all of my interviews, and that it is hard to put on an event. First off, just straight up hard to host an event. It's a lot of logistics. It's a lot of moving parts, but it's also hard to make money off of one. You have to reach a certain threshold of signups and or sponsorships or both. So marketing is key. If you don't market well, the people don't come. If the people don't come, there goes your event. So what types of things do you all do for marketing to get people to your event?
So we're very digital tech focused. So we've always got your typical Google, Facebook ads. We're really well connected with the local community. There's an obstacle racing group called Colorado Obstacle Racers that we're a part of. And we also have a very large online community ourselves. So we do quite a bit of just referral marketing, but also just your standard paid ads. And then, another reason why we've partnered up with Spartan / Tough Mudder is we co-promote each other's events. So they at their local events will promote our OCR and vice versa.
Nice. That's awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that Spartan did that.
Yeah, they're actually very willing to work with people. And having worked with them now for approaching a year on the co-marketing side, and we're like 8 or 9 months into DekaFit, like we've had a really good experience. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
DekaFit is something. So my brother, who also co-owns Trio Fitness Training, he started in, I want to say 2020, 2021, 2022, whenever the pandemic stopped and events were allowed to start going full force again. And he did it for like a half a year before I did. And he's like, you got to try one of these. And then I did and got hooked on them. And I've done like 20 or 30 since then.
There you go.
So they're a ton of fun. And they are really good for just like drawing in more crowds and stuff. So it's cool. It's cool that you guys are in that as well, because the OCR and hybrid communities have pretty much the same people in them. You're pulling from other groups, different places, but it's a lot of the same people.
Yep. And we actually, Cerus owns the rights. We did this year's only DekaFit in the state. So that's part of why we started working with them. We have a whole bunch of equipment and we signed contracts with, local venues, not just out of our gym. So we plan to do that again next year and host Colorado's only DekaFit as a world champ qualifier.
Nice. That already happened?
Yes, we did one in mid-May in Superior, Colorado. Had several hundred people at it. And it was a good experience. Spartan flew a couple people out. They were amazing. And to basically oversee to make sure that it lived up to the spirit of a full DekaFit world champ qualifier. And yeah, we had a great experience.
Was that, sorry, I just hear a bunch of stuff talking to people in the community. Was that, so most DekaFits are in like a warehouse hosted by Spartan specifically, but so this was different. This was you hosting the DekaFit and not in like a warehouse type facility.
No, well, we rented a warehouse type facility called the Sports Stable. We did it offsite. That was important to maintain like the integrity and feel of the event. But for racers, it'd be a little different because it was essentially co-branded. You'd see Cerus branding and Spartan branding while out there. And they flew out some of their branding and we kind of worked together. I think that's a model that they're going to embrace more because they don't want to necessarily have their one crew going, as much as they want to have races going. So it was called a road show, but I think it's the only DekaFit road show that they have done. I'm not sure. I think
that, based on what I heard about events this year, that checks out. That makes sense. Okay. A while ago, you touched on pricing for the event, how you have everything included in the price. There's no extra fees or anything.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, when you've hosted the obstacle course race, what does the average ticket price look like?
As far as OCRs, we're averaging, depending on like if you sign up early or not, we're about 100.
Okay.
Is about our average. It's gone up the last couple of years, just like every expense. But it's a little bit cheaper. It's about 75 on average to get in the open waves.
Okay, cool. That is pretty much exactly on par with the vast majority of all the one event or one physical location events that I've talked to. So yeah, everyone's pricing is pretty much in the same area, which I assume is partly just the market and also just the cost that it takes to run the event. So that makes sense.
Yeah, and anytime you're running an event that relies on hundreds of people attending, you're kind of playing this game of I don't want to discourage them from signing up. However, like this is very expensive to put on, so
yes,
you have to factor that in.
Yeah, that makes sense. I used to race almost exclusively OCR. Now I do hybrid and tactical competitions, so it's spread out all over the place. And then every time I come back to like a Spartan or not, I'm not knocking Spartan for this, they're a massive organization. But every time I go back to do one, the price has gone up. So
Yeah.
it's coming close to, if you don't use a discount code, I think it's like 160 or 170 for a sprint now with all the fees and everything. Something around 160 anyway. So it's nice when you can do some longer events or different events with creative obstacles that cost $50, $60, $70 less. So,
I totally agree. Yeah, and that's they charge for the brand name and
yeah,
you get a consistent experience, but then you're getting a mandatory insurance fee and wait, like what is the actual price? I get it, and not speaking ill of them because they're our partners, but I have felt that pain myself.
Yeah. Yep. All right. In all of your years of hosting an obstacle course race, what have you personally found to be the most challenging aspect of it?
I think that the labor side of it is, we own 25,000 pounds of steel for our races. And like just assembling and building these monstrous, because we never wanted to do anything that was not something we'd be proud of. And so over time, we just every year we'd invest more and more. So like they turned into this, it's like a week and a half of build and tear down. And so that's definitely hard on crews, and I'm always out there with them and basically shut down life for 10 days to be there. So I think that's just, it's a demanding element, and it's kind of from a race organizer's perspective, you're kind of at this whole, like, what the cost benefit, you're always like, okay, like, unless we get 500 or more people at this event and we're like close to break even, but we just spent 2 weeks out here, and spent so many thousands of dollars. That's a tough part of being a race organizer. And that's, also the challenging part, right? How do I market and effectively get enough people at this event that it makes sense? Because there's a lot of fixed cost as an organizer. You're like, I'm going to buy the medals ahead of time. I don't know how many people I'm going to get. I'm going to throw away, I've probably thrown away thousands of medals in our time,
Oh, no.
Mystic, is usually, you always want to err on that side, right? But it's a guessing game. So it's a challenge. Like, it's a real puzzle for us. And we're always like, all right, this year we're going to change this element and see if that affects registration. So
that sucks about having to throw away medals at the end. Because you don't want someone to walk away from your event without a medal.
Right.
But first off, you want them to have the full experience. You want them to have a takeaway, but also, like, it's good marketing too. And you don't want them to have the bad experience because they might not come back. So you have to try to overbuy. And then if you do, but then you've wasted money.
Exactly. So you overbuy like just enough where you're like, this is aggressive, but it's not unrealistic. That's usually where we land.
Yeah. Yeah. And another thing I've learned talking to all these different race owners and directors is there's so many unknowns, especially because I don't know if it's true for your event also, but several people have said that a significant number of the signups happen within like the last month or 2 months.
Especially since COVID.
Really?
Especially since COVID. Yeah, we noticed a huge change in customer behavior after COVID, where it's like, I'm going to wait to make sure I'm not sick, and like everything lines up to where we don't know anything till the last 2 weeks. You'll have like just 100 people, and you're like, we're either going to have a huge rush or this is going to be super disappointing.
Wow.
Um,
That's crazy. I would I would never have guessed that change because I don't run these events. I wouldn't know. That's crazy.
Yeah, the other race organizers I've talked to have noticed a change, and I talked to Spartan too. They've noticed a shift to later purchases, which you try to like counterbalance it with, you have a higher ticket price late, like let's get signed up earlier, but customers, they seem willing to pay to avoid the uncertainty. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's very interesting. For me, I try and get signed up in advance because the prices are cheaper.
Right.
And I'm okay. I'm okay if something comes up missing an event. If I spent a few $100s less over the course of the year getting early bird tickets versus just losing that one race that costs like $80 or whatever. So,
right.
Hey, whatever. If that's what it does, it just makes it hard for planners to do their thing.
Because like medals, you're ordering at least 6 weeks out, like depending on who your partner is. And so you're making a lot of decisions upstream, and you're like, well, I have some reasonable data that tells me this, I should be able to order this many based on years past or whatnot, but you're playing a lot of guessing games. So
did you see any drop off in numbers from pre-COVID and post-COVID?
Yeah, I mean, for us in our races, and again, we always want to do bigger and better, but we saw stagnation just in our racer counts. And I don't know if it's a market shift or not. Like once you've done an OCR, you're either hooked on it or you've done it, so I don't know if there's like a shift in customer behavior or not, but that's why we postponed this year. We looked at early ticket data of what we had available, and we're like, yeah, we don't feel good about the way that it's trending. We're going to wait another year and kind of let that demand build back up and focus on our other events. But yeah, it's definitely the market's definitely shifted. And I know there's been a lot of companies that went under recently, and especially for small time, like local OCR, if it's not a passion project for you, usually they're not getting the numbers that really justify it, so yeah, it's a tough balance in OCR.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. We lost Rugged this year. Bone Frog came back to life last year. And I was so excited because they were going to do one in North Carolina this year. And it's like, I think it would have been 2 hours for me. So I would have finally got to do one. The last one I did was 2017, I think. And then they went back under again. And there were a few others as well that are either dead or like pretending they're alive and are actually dead.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Confusing.
I'm a analytics guy. Like I come from the tech and predictive AI world, and I have all these models that were made to predict how many people would sign up, and then also just like going through the economics. And from my perspective, running an OCR out here, at least the way that we do with excavation and steel and all that stuff, they don't make sense to run if you're going to have less than 500 participants typically. Okay. Like assuming that you're paying for your labor. And I know people, when it's a smaller event, you're like, I'm getting my buddy to help me. And like from a sustainable perspective, I can't find a model that makes sense with less than 500 people on average that doesn't charge an exorbitant amount of money.
Right. That makes sense.
That's the game, right? So it's a volume game. You have a fixed cost, essentially, pay a little bit more on insurance and metals, but if you can get 2,000 people, it's like, oh, heck yeah, this is worth it. Like we'll pack these waves and maybe run a day 2 and we'll add another variant to the race. But if it doesn't happen and you're like, well, am I going to take loss this year and hold on to it and just try to build it for next year? We had to play that game earlier in our history. And, we just started getting more selective with when we took our big bets because we have really high fixed costs. We own a facility with $500,000 of equipment that we have to pay for. And so, it's just a tough game, but it's a fun one. I'll tell you that much.
I think I would have an enormous amount of fun hosting one, and I would probably lose years on my lifespan with the stress, just wondering, am I going to get enough signups for this to go another year?
Yeah, you would. And I remember with my wife, like super early in our history, like we started with like the whole built them in my garage and painted them
Yeah.
in my front yard story. And like we maxed out a credit card to start the first ruck race. And we were like, is this ever gonna pay for itself? And like the stress was crazy, and it ended up working out and we got like rave reviews. But like the stress leading up to it was like crippling. There were days where like, oh my God, like this is tough. And so you go through that almost every event. I think you become a little more resilient over time. We've done it 7 years. And so we kind of understand what those hits feel like, but
Mhm.
it's a tough business.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's a big takeaway I've had from all of this, because one day I would love to host my own, just to do it. I don't have crazy ideas about obstacles or anything fancy or special to do. I just would like to host one, but it'll be
Do it.
down the line,
Do
maybe
it.
one day.
And do
So
the whole thing, like do the event director side of things. And like, you're going to be stressed out, but I'm sure
yeah.
you're an organized person. And clearly you're running a business, so you know how to like get things done and plan ahead of time. Um, it's definitely worth the experience. It's just a matter of how much do you love it? Because if you don't love it and it doesn't pay well, you're like, oh, I got to get out of this. But if you love it, like you're going to have the smiles when they cross the finish line, stuff like that is amazing. So, yeah.
Yeah, that does make it worth it. Okay, we've covered pretty much everything from
Yeah.
top to bottom for the race. Is there anything else you would like people to know about your? Oh, sorry. One last question before I get to that. What month of the year do you typically host your obstacle course race? So if you are hosting it next year, if everything works out, when roughly can people expect to see it?
May and September.
Okay.
So like last year, for example, we had a fitness festival, which had a short course, quarter mile, like loaded with obstacles, and then a 5K with excavation and stuff in September. So twice a year.
Okay, cool. All
Yeah.
right. Is there anything else you want people to know about your obstacle racing events or any of your other events before we wrap up?
I mean, not from an event standpoint. I mean, for us right now with this interview, it's unique timing because we're about to be one of the first companies to go crowdfunding. So we actually, our business
Really?
model, yeah, it's not public yet, but hopefully by the time this goes live, it'll be public. Our business model is we create a facility, like the one that I'm in today. And we have training and we cover all aspects of training and nutrition and all that. And then we layer events on top of that. So it's like I train for the event here and like learn how to do things. And then I go achieve that milestone all
Mhm.
within kind of our ecosystem, I guess, and Spartans as well. And so we're starting to expand that model starting this fall. And so it'll be live on a platform called Start Engine. They're the largest crowdfunding platform in the world. And that's not public knowledge. So this will be the first time it goes public.
Cool.
In about 30 days, I think it'll go live. So, yeah.
Nice. Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah. No, like I said, we like to take big swings, and we decided that it's time to go bigger and expand our team and our vision. So,
Um, sorry, that's super interesting to me. So I'm going to ask some questions.
that's
Uh,
fine. Yeah.
how does that work as far as, so if it's crowdfunded, someone buys into it,
Mhm.
what are they getting in return? Are they like a shareholder then? How does that work?
Yeah. So they will essentially own a percentage of the company. And so the way that they'd make their money back is as we get larger and take in more investment from bigger firms, and the valuation of the company goes up, then the valuation of their holding goes up. And then, when there's what we call liquidity events and fundraising, like more money's coming in, they can typically sell their shares for a gain
Mhm.
or hold on to them for the whole ride. So that's what we'll be doing for the first time publicly. Our other fundraising rounds have all been private. And so it's been a learning experience for me on the capital side. But yeah, it'll be a fun opportunity. Like I think the smallest investment somebody can make is about $250, but we're raising 1.2 million. And then with it, we'll open another facility and expand a lot of our footprint on online training and a lot of other things. So
That is awesome. Cool. Well, I hope that goes really well for you because that
Thanks.
sounds an awesome opportunity.
Fingers crossed. We'll see.
Yeah.
It's the market will decide, just like with an OCR, if they've decided that your event is worthy, having known that it exists, marketing, then the market will decide.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, Chris. Thanks for talking to me and sharing all the little things because that's so helpful for people to hear, especially people who see big races and little ones and compare them. And then it's good for people to know the details and the background for racing and why things are the way they are and how they work and everything. So I really appreciate your time. Hopefully everything goes well, and hopefully the models work out for next year so that you guys can run an obstacle course race and people in Colorado and around the country can come to it.
That's my hope too. And thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely. All right. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Take care.